Hi everyone, today I'm going to be reviewing Solo Leveling Arise, which is published by Netmarble. And let me just say this first, the production of this game is really high. Just look at these models and the lobby, it's done so beautifully. You can move around and get into different parts of the interfaces this way. Nobody's really gonna do that because you can just access everything over here, but let me just go through some of the parts of the game first. So in story, I will say that the cutscenes, music, graphics are done exceptionally well. Some of the stage design is also really innovative, and I think the combat system is satisfying enough. And usually what happens in gacha games is that the story isn't very difficult. The story is usually easy, and then you have difficulty in everything else. But the story stages in this game is actually very difficult, especially some of the stages you'll have to craft a specific build for that. And so if you enjoy the manhwa, then I think this game's kind of presentation of the manhwa's story is actually better than the anime itself, in my opinion. So leaving the story aside, let's talk about the combat system. So one of your hunters is gonna be your main character, Sung Jin-woo, and you're going to have multiple skills for him. So what you do for each of the skills is you can unlock these runes, and each of these skills will have elemental runes like these or stuff that does multiple effects, and essentially you can choose which skills you want to use for specific stages and specific bosses, and each boss is going to have some kind of a weakness. So if I look at the battlefield of time right now and look at Kargagan, you'll see over here you have boss passive, right? You have break gauge, decrease damage taken, you have this is a skill that grants a shield, you have special object, you have fire resistance, and then he's weak to wind. So you would use skills that do wind damage, you would avoid using skills that do fire damage, and you would try to get at least one skill that does break, right? And you can just look at it. So this is a break skill, but it's not fire, it's not wind. Instead, you can go for this, which is wind, right? That's one way to do it. And the other way is, if there's mobs that you want to clear, you go for Commander's Touch usually, which creates a black hole and sucks all the mobs in. So there's a bunch of strategies that are involved, but eventually you kind of converge on to just 2 or 3 skills with the runes for your play style, and you just use that kind of loadout for all of the bosses. And another thing that you have is blessing stones, which is giving special buffs as well. So this buff is that when the enemy is under 70%, you get a damage increase, which is one of the best blessing stones. You get crit rate with this one. With this one, when you summon your shadows, you get some more additional damage. This one is basically a free revive. And so now let's talk about shadows, right? I mentioned shadows just now. What these shadows are summonable units, right? You can actually summon these shadows. You can pick who's your leader. It affects your stat points, so crit hit rate, because I picked Igris, but you have Igris, Iron, you have Blaze, and you have Tank. And actually, we're gonna get even more shadows. We're gonna get Cerberus, we're going to get Tusk, and a bunch of others that were Teeds. But as you can see, Tusk is over here right now. Then another kind of progression system we have is the weapons. Each weapon has advancement, and you can level them up, but I think the main thing that I like about the weapons is that their skills are actually quite varied, and the amount of time it takes for the animation and how useful they are actually matter a lot in whether you're going to use them or not for speedruns. So West Wind is actually the best free-to-play weapon if you're going to be playing. You want to level up this one. It does a lot of damage, especially with more and more ascensions. But in general, you have the Demonic Flower Sword, which increases your crit damage, which is a really good weapon. And I guess what I really want to say is, in terms of the combat system, there's a lot of depth, right? You can choose weapons, you can choose runes, you can choose blessing stones, and you have artifact sets. So for artifact sets, you can go a crit build, you can go a build that focuses on the core attack, which is like, you go into skills, you have a bunch of core attack for each of these weapons, right? Over here, you've got the core attack. So you've got that build. Then you have a build that focuses on his ultimates by refilling his power gauge. So there's quite a bit of variety with how you can play Sung Jinwoo. And for the hunters who are your support when you play Sung Jinwoo, you usually just spawn them in as like QTE, but you can also play those hunters as yourself, right? And there's variety in the artifacts that you can choose, but usually you would go for concentration of firepower for most of them. So I quite like that there are a lot of skills, and you can have multiple kinds of rotations because of these skills. And this is like pretty in-depth stuff of how ascensions and other factors of a character change their rotations, which makes this game actually quite strategic in team building and how you approach a stage. But tactically, I think it kind of lacks a little bit. Particularly, what it lacks is an ability to parry and counter. And you do have certain runes like these that can do like a counter attack, but it's not really that impactful. What I'm really looking for is something that is like counters in Lost Style, which really like stops a special attack from a boss, right? And that basically doesn't exist right now, which makes combat last very, very short times usually. If you have wailed a lot and you're like at the max, like I'm at level 20 for all of these artifacts. So this was like essentially as high as you can get during the early access. Now you can get higher after global release, but it's gonna take a while for me if I keep going, right? I think the artifact grind is honestly horrible. Despite like the combat system being all good, the artifact grind is just trash, because usually it's actually better for you to have your desired stats like crit hit rate as the substat so that you can get multiples of those. But it's so difficult to do it. You lose so much gold and you don't gain enough gold to upgrade everything. And that's a really big shame. So other than the combat system, what I can also show you guys is what kind of daily chores you have. So you've got gates, which is honestly, at the start, this is pretty fun. Like if you do like the red gates, they're usually pretty difficult because if you're especially doing like Sung Jinwoo ones and you have a boss that is difficult, like maybe Baruka, and you're like doing what max difficulty. If I'm doing like 28 difficulty one, this will actually be extremely difficult. This is 253k, and now I have to strategize to kill it, right? But the main problem with this is you have to do 15 of these, right? Because you get 15 gate keys, you have to do 15 of these every day. And you can sweep. Sweeping is an option, but you can only sweep so much, so you're gonna have to do manually eventually, and you can only use scan gates every 5 minutes, which wastes a lot of time. And even then, you have to do like gate mining, and you have to get like your level up, so you can do 4 mines at a time, like this. And once the time is expired, you basically get the rewards from the mines. But this is also super tedious. Essentially, you just have to keep being locked in and keep doing this stuff. It takes about an hour to do all the chores, and this is just one part of it, right? The other chore that is extremely annoying is Power of Destruction. This thing actually takes so much time. Like, you have like 3 minutes over here and 3 minutes over here. It takes like 6 minutes to do this. It's such a chore, and it's the same thing every day. It's pretty boring, but you do get pretty good rewards from it if you do it. But the value of the reward keeps going down the more and more you progress in the game. Then you have Encore missions, so you do like 6 of these, but you can honestly do 2. per run, and you can auto most of it. So what I do is all the ones that have cleared 3-star, you get bots, and these bots allow you to basically auto them. So even Cerberus you can auto at tier 6 at the level that I am in, at level 70 with everything at level plus 20 artifacts or whatever. So it's possible. It's definitely possible. And Arachnid, if you have Cha, then you can basically clear everything. I'm just lazy to do it. Because honestly, this game, it's a little bit tiring nowadays. Because the throws take too long. And then you have Instance Dungeon. So this is where you play Jinwu. For the other one, you play the Hunters. In this one, you play Sung Jinwu. And honestly, this one is kind of harder to do tier 10, even with auto. So for that, you would want like a bunch of really good hunters. For them, I would go for like Cha, Bike, Min, and also Lee Bora. Those are all good options to have as your hunters for that. But without them, it's a long grind to get to tier 10 and auto it, right? So because of how long it takes to do all of these shows, it takes about an hour sometimes because of how annoying the rescans are for the gates. And honestly, if you're gonna play the game, you should probably focus on Battlefield of Time because it's actually pretty competitive with leaderboards, and this part is actually pretty fun, but eventually what ends up happening is that you become so powerful you just trample on all of the content, and it's become pretty simple now. It was actually pretty challenging during early access, but now it's so simple that it's honestly boring. And we've got Battlefield of Trials. Don't know how that happens. But Battlefield of Trials. So Battlefield of Trials is actually really, really interesting and fun. Until you get to like the points where stats matter more than skills and strategy. And that's what I kind of started hating about this, because look at the scaling, right? It's 242k for floor 29, for floor 30 it's 256. And it takes so much more gold and so much more time to actually get to this. Like each increase is a pretty big investment of gold and time. It's not easy to get there. So until we get the gem system that they're going to introduce, this is going to be so difficult to get to these levels. You're going to have to grind the artifacts, you're going to have to grind all the gold, you're going to have to keep on increasing your weapon levels. It's a long grind. But it's not all bad. I think you can usually get enough gold to at least progress a little bit day by day if you keep logging in. In terms of draws, I think if you're actually trying to get this game done, for rate ups, I would recommend getting these as your first hunters. And once you have your hunters, because Emma is the best AoE clearer, he's the best fire DPS, Choi. Seo is essentially the best out of all of these, so she's like a really good water DPS and you need her for Cerberus, and Min is one of the best buffers for Jinwu. So those are the good ones. For weapons, you wanna go for these, because you will get the A1 sight for free anyways, but I don't know. It's really hard to get the weapon you want, because there's a lot of chance involved in limited draws as well. But you get a lot of tickets from just doing the story and other challenges. If you're just starting, you want to do these challenges. That's what you want to focus on, because you get 10 tickets per, and you get a lot of resources as you do it. Alright. There's also a new mode that they've introduced, a reverse mode, where you can actually use hunters for each of the story stages, but it means that you need to focus on 3 of your hunters really well, and that's what I would recommend, because you get like additional rewards from battle tiers and unlocks of mechanics by doing that. So I have 232k right now, because I'm mostly just focusing on these 3 with Jinwu. And yeah, we can also talk about daily missions. They're actually not super difficult to do daily. You get like around 100 gems, premium currency, and The weeklies are also not super difficult. Kind of annoying sometimes to have to obtain 70 artifacts. Like, what if you don't want to really grind artifacts, you know? But if you just don't have the time, yeah, you can lose out on this one. But it's usually not a big problem. Then you've got achievements, which is just classic stuff. And you've got crafting here. This actually is a huge gold sink because you have to craft a lot of artifact enhancements eventually, and also the skills goals as well for materials. You can also like craft the weapons, the SSR weapons of the limited hunters for free from the events. So you get like materials like these, which is pretty nice. That's essentially the best DPS weapon for SSR hunters right now, and I got it for free just from the event. And I did that for the last event for Choi as well. So it was this one that you could do it for free. And yeah, it's pretty nice actually that they do that. But this is actually annoying because these resources are so hard to get. You have to choose your first weapon really carefully. And the one I would choose honestly is Unparalleled Bravery for sale. This one is absolutely the highest priority if you have sale. So try to go for that. And then in fusion, this is actually something I really like. You can fuse materials to get stuff like runes. Like this is how you unlock runes. And then if I get a duplicate, I can basically add it to this, and then fuse again. To have a chance to get an epic rune. So I didn't get an epic rune, but I did get a new rune. So what I can do is I can go to skills page. I can look at this rune, and I can click preview, and now I see what the rune does, right? That's pretty cool. And knocks down, it charges power gauge, that's pretty cool. But if you look at a different rune, then it's gonna have a different animation. So the light one is kind of just like a, yeah, this is crushing blow, but each one of them has different effects, which is pretty cool. And some of them actually are pretty sick. That's the Phantom one, yeah, this one's pretty sick. I quite like a lot of these animations and the variety of everything. This one is also really cool, a really good rune skill. This one I unlocked recently is really nice as well. You're invincible during them. I really like skills that you're invincible during them because you can iframe a lot of PS for fights that are really difficult. But what it's really gearing towards is that as you level up more and more, fights become very easy. So I don't know about that. You can also craft blessing stones. So you can see you can get epic and rare blessing stones. And then you can do the same with blessing stones as I did with the runes. So that's another thing. And legendaries, it just takes forever to get this because you need epic. You need dupes of epics over here. And then you need 50k gold, which is huge. It's not a lot of people are gonna have good legendaries. It's a very, you have to be super lucky to get that. Which is kind of annoying because it's a huge upgrade. But it is what it is, you know. And then we have the armory. This is honestly like a sink. You usually want to have your SSR weapons here for Jinwoo, and you just level it up so you get more combat power, because combat power allows you to have kind of not have debuffs when you're under the recommended. You usually always want to be like 20k or 30k above the recommended to have some kind of a buff for the stage. And this is something new that's about to come, and I think this is going to be related to the armory for SSR weapons. We'll see what happens. And then let's talk about the events real quick. So the kind of events you usually have is stuff like you get these letters from doing all kinds of content, and you can claim for like rewards. I'm not a huge fan of this kind of events, but it's actually a really good reward. Like getting skill chests is extremely good. And you got the special dice event. This is like every single limited character release has this. This is where you get the weapon from. How I got my free weapon. And you get a bunch of tickets as well. And they kind of feed into it. The more tickets you get, the more chances you get to roll the dice. So it's pretty nice. Then they have these events which make zero sense. They last for very little time, and they kind of encourage you to do things that might not help your account at the best. So honestly, these events, these short events are honestly just for whales. They don't even make any sense. But I like this Chai rate up one, because this encourages you to like level up the rate of characters. But eventually it's gonna be like pay to win, I think, because it's Netmarble. So yeah, the events are decent, nothing too interesting right now, but they probably have something cooking. It does have a lot of ideas. If you look at the roadmap. And they also give quite a bit of rewards, usually like this PK reward for being number 1, having a lot of downloads is pretty nice, honestly, but it does. So there's 2k rewards for reaching level 10. Pretty good actually. So yeah, that's essentially what this is. You also have a battle pass, and you can get a bunch of tickets and mats. The gold is what you're gonna want to buy the battle pass for, honestly, because the gold is what matters a lot. But even if you're F2P, once you finish your battle pass, you start accumulating gold, and once it expires, so after 12 days, you'll get all of that gold. It's actually decent, but it's not a lot of gold once you level up. Second rewards are decent, they're not great, so what else? Hunter Archive, this is just like small stories, but you just get like 3 gems from them. You can just skip them usually if you've read the manhwa. But yeah, overall, I think the biggest issue is probably here. So the reason I'm actually gonna drop the game, even though I think it's actually pretty fun, and the combat system is probably one of the best combat systems in any gacha, just like from a strategic perspective, not a tactical perspective, because of how much variety there is and how you can build teams of hunters and how you can build like with skills with the runes and with blessing stones and weapons for Jinru based on whatever you have on your account. I truly think that variety is really nice. You really do have a sense of satisfaction when you can actually clear a really difficult stage because of a strategy that you came up with given what you have on your account. But you can trivialize all of that by just buying any of these things and just empowering up, right? And they shove it up in your face. Every time you log in, they'll tell you to buy passes, and it's so clear what the priorities of Netmarble is for this game. And that's why I'm gonna be quitting it. So yeah, I'm making a review video, but I'm also quitting because a way better video game is coming out soon, which is Wuthering Waves, and I hope you guys try that one out. That one's also free and not as money hungry as Netmarble. And honestly, the biggest issue that everyone should know about is that there is a huge controversy, right? Now, we don't know if it's true, but Troy, the limited rate of character of early access, essentially can't crit. And because he can't crit, his attack is increased by 40%. So he was a top DPS during early access in all the tier lists. But that was because critical damage was bugged. And now the conspiracy or controversy is that even though they knew about the bug of the critical damage, they didn't fix it till global release for Cha, who completely relies on critical hits and damage, right? Her support skill is legit about critical hit rate and critical hit damage. And so they only fixed it by Cha release. They didn't do it before that, even though they knew about the issue. So that's the problem with Netmarble, is they're very sneaky with how they try to get money from their player base. That's why I actually don't recommend any of you to spend any money. Just play it for free. Enjoy it while you can. I think Lv.70 is a pretty good stopping point. They'll be releasing like more modes in the future. So over here, what I'm seeing is this is probably going to be a co-op event, and that's what I really want to try out later on. So I'll probably install it again to try out the guild system and the co-op event when it comes out, which will be in a few months. or something, but for now I think I am done because the grind is too much. It takes over an hour sometimes to actually grind out your dailies, and if you want to increase or at least decrease the time it takes, you have to purchase this, which allows you to like sweep all the gates. Gives you like special sweep. You can do like 4 keys at a time, stuff like that. So a lot of convenience is paywalled, which they should just give it away, like Snowbreak and PGR do. I honestly just have auto clear, like why even waste time doing the same content every day? I like gates. I think gates are nice, and doing some manually is completely fine. It's just the rescan thing is dumb. Like why do we have to wait 5 minutes? Like, just let us do all the gates and let us sweep most of them and only do the challenging ones, because that's what's important. Because at this difficulty, I can sweep a lot of them, but doing them manually is actually a chore if you want to optimize the rewards from doing these gates, right? So yeah, that's the end of it. I'm also dropping Aether Gazer, by the way, but it's mostly just taking a break while I get into like the mode of just doing the daily grind for Wuthering Waves, and for Angel then I'm gonna drop solo leveling and Aether Gazer and then focus on Wuthering Waves. But for my review of solo leveling so far is that fun game with a good combat system, good story, good graphics, good music, good voice acting. But if you want to spend, I highly recommend that you do not spend on it because it's not marble, and you should probably just play for free while you have fun, and then just drop it when you feel like spending or when you feel like it's becoming a chore. Thanks for watching.